Good evening and welcome along to the Turn 1 podcast. It's episode 9, I think. It's the podcast made for the fans, by the fans, but mainly for anyone who actually bothers to listen, which is, if you are listening, thank you ever so much. Joining me are my normal guests, Will, Lard and Henry. Good evening, gentlemen. They are all gits because they played a prank before me before the podcast went live, which will be on the end, where they just decided to play the silent treatment on me when I came back from getting a drink. Anyway, how the devil are you? You're all good. Sweaty. Oh, hang on. They didn't hear a single word of that because I forgot to unmute SoundCloud. Ha ha! Hang on. In that case, we're restarting. Bear with me a second. So pro. I am such a professional, aren't I?
Dear.
Okay, we're going live in a second. All right, here we go. Right, take 2. Right, here we go. Right, mute. Don't forget to unmute SoundCloud. Right, okay, here we go. Will just said turns off Xbox.
Merry Christmas,
Hello.
Denis Norden.
Oh, flipping it, that's on the intro.
Oh, no.
I'm not retaking it. I'm not redoing it. Hello, and welcome along to the Turn 1 podcast, episode 9. Thank you very much. Oh. You twats, you know that. Welcome along to the Turn 1 podcast with me, Tracker, also known as John. Joining me every week is Will, Lard and Henry, but to see how long they're going to last, that's a debatable question, depending on how well they react on this podcast. Gentlemen, how are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you.
I'm good, thank you.
I'm not doing a take 3 in Morton McLeod. We're going from now. We can keep that on the intro, just to show that we actually are unprofessional. I don't care. Yeah, we're here to talk about the main thing, which is Austria. Last podcast we talked about Canada and France. We covered it all. So we're talking about podcast-wise Austria. Free practice 1. Well, kind of no. Free practice 2, free practice 3, and qualifying. But before that, we talk about the final thing that happened off air. Well, it happened not long before we finished. In regards to something that happened in France. Does someone want to film that in whilst I get the game set up? Is that okay? Who wants to take the lead?
To the pit lane.
To the pit lane, Henry.
Ricardo got 2 5-second penalties for leaving the track, and I think it was dangerous overtake, I believe. So obviously the first one was because he left the track overtaking Norris and not returning in a safe manner, and the second one was overtaking Kimi with 4 wheels off the track.
That is exactly what happened. So what do we think about that, guys? Start with the first one, the Norris one, because it's split into 2. What do we think about the Norris one?
So I think it's a complete slam dunk, really. You know, you saw it happened.
Yeah.
Fair game.
Yeah, I tend to agree with the first one.
Yeah, same here.
Right there, but you know, he was off the track.
Yeah.
There's just to be said. But I think that one's more understandable. Like, he went for an overtake and he didn't quite go off. He didn't know he was going to go off, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know, there's a bit of...
He just carried too much speed, didn't he, I think, and just left it braking too late, and just that was it then, wasn't it? Really?
A genuine mistake, I guess, compared to the second one.
Yeah, the second one was blatant. Let's pretend that the track is about 5 car lengths long. Wide even. Wide.
I think he could. I don't think he could go left though, could he? Because Hulkenberg was sort of coming up on his left. I don't think he could go left. because Hulk was charging down the outside, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Or he's inside.
one of the two.
But that's why there's a track. Otherwise, you just go wherever you like, you know?
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
It's going to lead on to a topic that we're going to talk about later on in part 2, which is about track design, gravel, track limits. So we're going to bring in anyone on the chat. If you want to put any questions, I'm sure Henry can make a note of some of the questions that are on there, so we can talk about it in part 2. I'm giving Henry homework.
Always giving me homework.
I am indeed. But yeah, let's talk about Austria. Let's talk about free practice 2, because let's face it, free practice 1, nothing happened.
Apart from Hulkenberg breaking his front wing.
Yeah, but you
And
expect.
Lance Stroll.
Yeah, well, Stroll you expect it from. Hulkenberg you expect it from the Renault. Car setup. Oh, flipping heck, I need a load of the car setup.
Because didn't Stroll break a front wing in every free practice?
He did in FP3, didn't he? I'm sure he did.
I don't know if it was Coulthard or something that said they broke it in every practice. I was like, yep, that's Stroll. His dad can afford it.
Yeah, his dad owns the team. It's fine. But let's talk about free practice 2. And, well, was it the wind? Is that what caused it? Start with the first one. Verstappen. What a crash going into turn 9 and 10.
Yeah, that was a nasty one.
You don't normally see a Red Bull so unbalanced.
I think he just lost it.
You think he just lost it?
I think it was just driver error.
It's the altitude, isn't it? It's Austria that's, I think, affecting the teams, or mixing up the order, if you like. But, yeah, I'd say he generally lost it on the curb, was it? From what I could say.
Yeah, I think he did.
But with a bit of wind, probably, as well.
Yeah. It was interesting.
I think, was it Bottas who went off next?
It was
Yeah,
Bottas. Bottas went off literally. Oh, pull the microphone there. Literally, the
Turn 5?
it was Well, what happened was it went red flag, then it came back, and it was literally the next one, wasn't it? They were following Hamilton, and then Bottas came off at turn 6, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And
I think,
that
luckily, Bottas had gone back to a previous PU, so he's not damaged his new spec.
right. So he's using. I think that was the same with what happened with Verstappen with the gearbox, wasn't it? It wasn't the race one that he was using.
Because he had an oil leak in free practice 1, I think. So they put in the second power unit rather than the third one, or however it's done. So he didn't damage anything that was new, which was lucky. But yeah, it was a nasty crash as well, that one.
It was.
It did look nasty from the pictures I saw.
I think Bottas's was worse, even though he went in head first. It was at a much higher speed.
It was, and that's the thing. It was such a large impact because he tried to control it, and then it was just he was just heading him straight into the barrier, and it was the fact that he spun as well, didn't it? When he collided. Whereas Verstappen, he was going backwards. It kind of just moved a bit.
It was just so weird though, because the Mercedes always looks planted, and then he, like you say, he sort of turned in. He's obviously put his foot down to go, and then he's tried to catch it, and then gone straight into the barrier.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he hit a curb though, didn't he? That was definitely a curb from Verstappen. But I think it was Bottas as well. It was interesting.
Yeah.
But of course, the other person that had a bit of an off.
Was the Ferrari of Vettel?
Yes.
Yeah, he was lucky to save that. Same place as Verstappen, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But he didn't hit a curb. That was pure the wind catching it, according to him. Fully blamed.
Yeah, that sounds like a driver excuse right there.
Whoa, I've just been taken out by a McLaren. That's Alonso. Alonso is fighting me. Okay, Alonso, deal with this.
This is where he pushes him off the track now, that.
Hey, I'm cleared second place at the minute.
But it comes back to the point I was making, was it in Bahrain, that Ferrari aerodynamics-wise seems very delicate
Yes.
and following cars.
Yeah.
It's always been, well, Canada, he was following cars. Bahrain, he was passed by Hamilton, and it was windy. This was windy as well, you could say. So,
Yeah.
something about that aero, it's not working for them.
I think they've kept some of the parts, haven't they, from France that didn't work. I think they've kept some of them for this track.
Didn't they reinstate them?
I think the front wing, wasn't it? The front wing and a few other little bits. But the floor they haven't brought, I don't think.
Ooh, talking about flaws, on the pre-race thingy that F1 do, was it the rumour that Carlos Sainz had sort of let slip?
What's that?
That McLaren have an incredibly good flaw in development that could be worth up to half a second.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
They've not brought it to this race because they've gone back to the factory to take some weight off it, but it's looking promising. He said, obviously, we're not expecting it to actually do half a second because the wind tunnel and what actually happens in reality, but they were confident it would improve performance in all areas.
Well, that McLaren is looking superb. I mean, let's face it, it's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, that car.
And they've got two drivers who actually spend a lot of time in the simulator and work, and that's probably helping them as well.
Yeah.
And they get on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that you haven't got Alonso there just criticising everything is probably a weight off all the staff shoulders as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather than them complaining, getting on with the job and actually saying, well, here's what we could change.
Yeah. This is what I feel is wrong with the car. Can you change it or
Yeah.
build a part to improve it?
They do seem like they're communicating a lot better.
Mm.
It's not just one man out for himself in a way.
McLaren were quite confident, and, they've been putting in good performances all year, really.
They really have.
One dodgy race, but that was more like a mis-strategy, was it? Left Carlos Sainz out in Canada, bad tyres, and obviously Norris had that strange failure.
Yeah, like I said in Canada, though, it wasn't a bad strategy. It was a case of they called him in early because of the visor strip going into the brake duct.
Mm.
So it was like for a one-stopper race, they had to try and make it work.
I'm just saying that was probably the weakest race of the year so far.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really their fault, but maybe they could have done something better. You don't know. You really don't know. But, McLaren, as I'm sure we'll get on to a bit later, doing pretty well.
Yeah.
We're running an excess on fuel. Mix 3 is there if you need it. Mix 3.
I don't think... Was it Carlos Sainz that went off in FP2? Who had, the fourth fastest time?
It was. Yes, it was. Yeah.
I think so, anyway. But, yeah, looking very strong and a good driver pairing.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, what do we think about these curves, by the way? The ones that everyone seems to moan about, the track limit ones.
They're fine, just don't drive over them.
Exactly.
It's that simple.
Exactly.
Thank you.
They don't cut the corner. Is it turn 4? We've got all the gravel there. They don't run wide there. So I think keep him there is what I say.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, keep them.
There's the whole thing about cost cutting, though, isn't there? I've heard Williams talk about. So obviously, if it's damaging their wings that cost them so much money with the budget cap, they're a bit like, well, do something that slows us down but doesn't damage the car. And I'm like, that's
How?
That's what they're doing.
Well,
Yeah.
unless they can, unless they have something in the FIA room that reduces the power to the power unit for 5 seconds or something like that,
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was a stupid argument, but again, money costs are coming into track design now as well. It's ramping up, is the 2021 regulations. Because I'm sure that was in between France and this race. Hamilton's interview, various drivers going to the regulations meeting.
yet.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, because it was Hamilton and Vettel went through it.
Mm.
Was that about the tyre one, or was that the?
No, it's for the rules, wasn't it? For rules, 2021
Oh
rules.
yeah. Sorry, because I'm
Yeah,
concentrating
because
on
the tyre
keeping
one
up
was
with.
pretty much thrown out. We went, nope.
Yeah,
Because all of them, apart from Mercedes, went, yeah, we will have it changed. Or a lot of them did. And Mercedes went, no.
Yeah, it was. It worked out that Red Bull, Toro Rosso, Ferrari, and Haas said change the tyres, and McLaren went, no, we're doing quite well with these tyres, thank you.
Did you
Well, to be
notice?
fair,
Did you notice the pattern, by the way? It was Mercedes, Racing Point, and Williams, with McLaren and Renault were opposed to it. The three Mercedes teams and 2 Renault teams, compared to Red Bull, Toro Rosso, Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, and Haas,
Which are Red Bull and
Red Bull,
Ferrari.
which are Honda and Ferrari powered.
mm.
Coincidence? I think not.
It's
Well, the big
gamesmanship, isn't it? It's all pure gamesmanship for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But it was pointless anyway because Pirelli couldn't make the tyres for the rest of this season to the next gauge, or it would be like the last 3 races because they're that far ahead, where it's all planned.
Yeah.
Plus, the teams have to choose tyres 6 weeks before the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the time they've obviously done the productions for those, this, that, and the other, be like, I don't know, 3 races before Abu Dhabi, they'd be able to actually physically change the tyre depths or gauges for this season. So it wasn't really going to happen even if everybody voted for it. Or it'd be too late. Whatever your view is on that. But yeah, the 2021 regulations have caused a lot of stir.
Tiny gap behind
Yeah.
is 15.
A lot of people asking, should the drivers have a say?
Drivers more than the teams, certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, teams are the ones that are fending for themselves, isn't it, really? I know drivers always have that kind of thing about wanting to do what's best for them, getting the best out of them. But drivers on a whole, if you put all 20 together, they'll find a way to collaborate and compromise, whereas teams don't want to.
Was that Perez that said that at the end of the pre-talking for this race? He was like, all 20 drivers have agreed 5 terms and we want them to use 2 of them or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a GDQ, is it? Drivers, basically, who look after the drivers, where all the drivers are part of.
Yeah, the GDPA, I think it was called.
Yeah, something like that.
Alex
And all the drivers
Verts,
were...
Alex Verts, isn't he? He's the one who leads that. Is it him or Grosjean that leads it now?
I don't know. But
Grosjean. Bloomin' heck.
yeah, that would be quite funny. But they were all in agreement, all 20, about these 5 things. And the FIA said they'd look at them, but, they weren't going to technically use any of them. Which, again, you can't give one driver a say, because that would be wrong. I'm not, even as a Mercedes fan, I'm not going, you should be listening to Hamilton. Because everybody's in it sort of for themselves, sort of for the team.
Yeah.
But drivers need to be consulted, because it's them that are driving.
Exactly. They're the ones on the front line.
I think Webber said earlier, only the drivers know what would help the cars follow better or this, that and the other, to a degree, because they're the ones doing it. But who knows? Sticking with me, are you, Tracker?
I really am. You're not losing me today. Well, so far. Now I've said that, you know what's going to happen. But I'm having an all-right race at the minute.
At the minute, is the opposite word there, to be honest.
I've got a good setup. I think I've managed to get that setup nailed.
Let's just hope the driver doesn't let it down, yeah?
You know I'm staying quiet because I'm concentrating fully.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, I think the 2021 regulations already been delayed to October. There is talk that they won't happen at all at this rate, which it's not ideal.
No, because we need closer racing. We need
We
better,
do.
more consistent racing than what we're getting. I mean, tomorrow, considering how qualifying went,
Hmm.
it's potentially shaping up to be another cracker.
Well, let's talk about qualifying because, like you say, it was a brilliant thing today. Let's start with, obviously, grid penalties are now coming into effect. Carlos Sainz has got a grid penalty for a new power unit. Who else?
Alex Albon.
Alex Albon's got a grid penalty for a new power unit. Magnussen's
Williams
got...
on started from the back. Yay!
Yeah, but
Hulk.
they'll be out the back by the end of turn one, won't they?
Probably.
Hulkenberg and obviously Magnussen get 5 places as well, don't they?
They
Before
do.
the weekend starts.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ricardo from his penalties from last race. Was it? The overtake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our gap behind
And
is
Magnussen's was the
9 seconds.
gearbox. But did you hear him in qualifying, Q3, when he crossed the line?
No.
Oh, that was just on the Channel 4 coverage. He was absolutely buzzing. He screamed his head off, was so pleased.
He went on Sky. He went to the F1. He was on Sky afterwards, and he was just like you say. He was really happy and praising the team and everything.
Mm. But again, they qualify all right. Comes to the race. Recently, it's been
They're like the Mercedes of like 2013 or 2014. Qualify really well and then just fall away in the race.
yeah. So I guess we'll wait and see. He's starting P10 with his penalty.
Yeah, because that means Vettel then will be up to 9th.
Well, indeed.
With technical issues with his car in qualifying 3.
Let's talk about a couple of things that have happened in qualifying. Let's go back to Q1, and we had. We'll talk about the Hamilton one in a second, but what happened with Kvyat coming out of the turn 9?
Yeah, with Russell being in his way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a potentially dangerous position. But the problem is with that, because it's such a blind corner, you're not looking back, are you? You can't see back there if it's a blind corner.
But also, Russell had been backed up by 2 cars ahead of him. So he could have gone much further forward, and he'd still been in the way.
What was the outcome of that? Because I had to switch off not long after quality.
Russell has a 3-place grid penalty.
Russell's got a 3-place grid penalty.
Yeah. I think it was because he moved across just as Kvyat was coming around the corner.
Right.
Yeah, because he was trying to think which way am I going to go.
Again, he wouldn't have seen him because, as we've said, it was a blind corner, so he wouldn't have seen him anyway.
Yeah.
No, I thought his reactions were quite good, to be fair. Saw him coming and pulled straight.
Straight across, other
Yeah,
way.
absolutely.
And like I said, there's nothing more he could do. He couldn't go ahead, couldn't speed up.
Because there were all those cars there.
Yeah, was it? Who else suffered with that in the first one? It wasn't just Ryan. It was it Grosjean that felt he got held up?
Yeah, I think it was a great. Yeah, it must have been.
I think.
Same part of the track as well, wasn't it?
Or was that Q2? Because he slowed down Norris as well. It might have been Q2. Because it then hampered the 2 Renaults as well at the same time. It was like a massive.
Yeah, it was like a car, traffic jam right up there as they were going for the final laps.
Henry, we haven't done this. First time today. What's going on in the chat?
Michael Patterson says, "Careful, Henry. Don't criticise Tracker too much. He'll take your pit lane privileges away." Zelda's in the chat, so say hello to Zelda. And the Immortal Cloud says, "Don't curse it, Tracker." He also says that Max was pushing it too hard.
Yeah.
For his crash.
Yeah, we'll come to that in my predictions later.
Oh, have we got an idiot of the week
God.
already lined up? Oh, flip. Henry, you free?
Am I free?
Yeah. Could you
What do you need me to-
Could you jump onto the Turn 1 podcast? And well, Max now said there's an update ready. You know what? Let's go into the pits. When I do the pits, I can switch off the restart. I don't want it restarting the Mac. Could you jump onto the T1 PC Discord group and get in contact with Jay and Waffle and see if I can get predictions? Because I forgot to do it.
I will do that right now.
Thank you very much for that. Let's later that. Try tonight.
Ah!
What?
I've been attacked by a moth
What?
Hey!
while doing an overtake. That was bad timing, moth.
That was bad timing.
How
Right.
dare we even think about doing that?
I've got no tear-offs either. What am I going to do?
Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound.
Right, I've done my one and only stop, Will. So pit lane's yours.
Well,
And
Right, message done.
thank you very much. Yeah, let's talk about that. Hamilton and
Kimi.
Raikkonen.
Yeah, Raikkonen.
That was bizarre.
oh.
Was
It
it?
was bad placing on the, bad timing where the cars were.
Yeah.
Hamilton was in a no-win situation there.
He'd already let somebody pass, hadn't he? He'd already let Giovinazzi through.
I think so.
So he literally come back on the racing line, and then he saw obviously Kimi coming up, so he's got out of the way. But unfortunately, he was sort of in the way.
Yeah, he got in the way to get
yeah.
out of the way again.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. Again, free place grid penalty for him.
Yes.
He, however, when getting a penalty, went, yeah, that's my mistake, but we'll deal with it tomorrow.
Oh, Lard, why'd you have to ruin it? I've got his Instagram up here, and I was going to say I was going to read out what he said, and you've just ruined it for me.
Well, you can read
Oh.
his direct quote if you want.
Okay, he said, totally deserved the penalty today and have no problem accepting it. Was a mistake on my behalf and I take full responsibility for it. It wasn't intentional, which I agree, it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
Anyway, tomorrow's another day and an opportunity to rise.
Yeah. He likes his rise business, doesn't he?
It goes on to say, these things are sent to try us. We all have to
Right.
push through whatever it is we are up against, whether it's right or wrong. Just continue to believe in yourself. We have the power to overcome obstacles even when they appear too large a task. Stay on course and never give up.
Okay. But to be fair, am I the one thinking that it wasn't exactly Mercedes' best weekend, really? So far.
It
so far.
wasn't. No, it wasn't their best weekend at all. They were struggling. I mean, on a short course, I think it's the heat that's causing it.
Well, Q1, because they both had terrible middle sectors, was traffic. That's why they had to go for a second run.
Yeah.
And you didn't hear them complaining about traffic as such. In fact, Hamilton.
Yeah, wanted it to slipstreaming. He went, we're not fast on the straights.
And
Yeah,
he ended up
but-
behind Norris, didn't he, for Q3?
Yeah.
He got his wish.
Yeah, but that's why they went for a second run in Q1,
Yeah.
because just got stuck behind so many people.
I think the track doesn't suit Mercedes in the fact that it's more straights and fast corners than sort of short. Because it's only like 10 corners long, really, isn't it? Like you said, it's a small,
Yeah, it's a small
short track.
It's a big
Say-
C, isn't it?
Yeah. It's only 7 corners, though, really, because 3 of them flat out.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. But yeah, not the greatest. Mind you, saying that, the first gap between Leclerc and Hamilton was like 10th of a second, something like that,
Yeah.
in Q3 before they went back out, or after Hamilton's 82nd lap, which he was happier with. So that's not a massive gap, really. So Leclerc's been on it since FP2.
Yeah.
So it was a recovery drive, if you want to put that.
And Mercedes are better on the race pace than the teams around them in Red
Aren't
Bull
they
and
also-
Ferrari. So
Different
whether
tyre
they-
as well. Yeah.
and a different tyre as well. So it's all dependent if Mercedes can actually, if Ferrari are out in front, can they catch them and then overtake them? Or if they're out in front, can they keep the lead?
Isn't it nice to have a nice mixed grid, though?
Oh, yeah.
First 4 positions taken up by 4 different teams.
Expect to see some rain.
Just makes things so much nicer and potentially much more exciting for the race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or not. It's going to go one of two ways, isn't it? Because this track isn't the best for overtaking either.
No.
Which is
I don't know. I've been doing it quite easily tonight.
What position are you in?
Back down to 6th, but I was up to 3rd.
Nice. I think I've got a lonely race at the minute.
There's
I'm
plenty,
for another stop, so you'll be all right.
You're doing 2 stopper.
Yeah.
there was plenty of overtakes in the F2 race today.
Hmm.
There was plenty of overtakes in the F2 race, so I'm hopeful there'll be plenty of overtakes tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good race, if I'm honest. Anything
Guess we'll.
Go on, sorry.
No, that was basically it. I guess we'll see because
Yeah,
qualifying and races have been quite different, really, this year.
that's true, it's true.
Haas qualifying well and then dying in the race. You've had, McLaren who can qualify really well and sometimes die off a bit or do really well, which is a bit weird. Toro Rossos have various high points and low points within a race, which mix up the order a bit. And then you've got the strategy of the top teams, which dictate the rest of the teams. Because there's a lot of pressure on Ferrari tomorrow now.
Yeah,
Oh.
there is.
Will they cope, is the question.
They got it right with Vettel in Canada. The question is, can they get it right tomorrow with Charles?
Although they're still going to try and put Vettel first in the race. Because Vettel comes first, you know what they've said.
I think they will,
Seconds.
because Vettel didn't do a time, so I don't know if he can actually. Did he do a times in Q2? And does anybody know what times he did it on, or should I find out?
I think they
He
were
did a time in Q2,
Yeah.
but
on softs, I think.
it was a soft, so
It
he went
was.
out on first.
So
No, yeah.
Because it was a
The
mistake.
Ferraris did softs. Yeah.
yeah, they did. Yeah, they did softs, didn't they?
Who am I catching up with? Who's my back? I've got a back marker. I'm catching up with a back marker. This is unusual. This is uncalled for from me. A back marker on a race?
Lard, you've got some support in the chat, by the way, from the Immortal Cloud. He just says, "Come on, Lard."
Hey, I'm up to third again.
That's good to hear. How many seconds behind me?
I don't know yet because I've just passed turn 1. Say that.
Hey, past turn 1. Podcast. There we go.
I was watching our first one the other day.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the name
Oh, Christ.
3. Wow.
Take Me at Turn 3 was going to be the name. I changed it to Turn 1 because I thought it sounded better.
You say so. If you want to know the origins of that name, go check it out in the first podcast.
Available on YouTube. Just type into YouTube, Turn 1 Podcast. And you'll find our little logo, which matches the one that you've got on the iTunes.
Screen.
On the screen. Oh, right. Oh, fine. Okay. Yeah, the screen. I'm figuring out which car it is. It's K-Mag. Yeah, he's being blue flagged. Okay, blue.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
not
dear.
blue.
Whoa!
What happened?
I've just hit Perez. Perez just come straight into me.
Oh dear, Perez, what are you
Thankfully.
doing?
Magnussen, get off the racing line, mate.
41 seconds behind you.
Yellow flag.
Come on, Lard, I believe in you.
Yeah.
No, go past K-Mag.
Okay, the incident has been cleared.
I'll need some more tyres. These have had it.
You're in the pits, are you?
I am in the pits.
Okay.
You still need to get past Magnussen here.
Fuel target is +1.
I can see the stream on a delay, so I can sort of see where track is, and I'm guessing how far he's going to be in front or behind.
He'll probably crash before he gets onto the pit straight. He'll be fine.
He's
I'm
in
going
front.
to Turn 2, mate. Thank you very much.
Righto.
Whereabouts are you, Will?
I've just come out of the pits.
Right, what?
Nice, I've actually got somebody to chase. Get on my Rise of the Valkyries music.
Anything going on in chat, Henry?
No, not at all. Oh, Zelda's gone, so we've all said bye to Zelda.
Ah, thank you,
She's-
Zelda. Thanks for stopping
I
by.
think she's still in Kent, so she sort of said popped in, said hello to everybody.
Right,
But that's it at the minute.
cool. What
Who's
is...
Kent?
Oh, did you hear that?
I heard that.
Did you hear what Jeff told us?
Rain.
Yep,
Oh, good old
15
Jeff.
minutes.
Good old Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
See, what would you do without Jeff, to be honest? Do you know what I mean?
Have a quieter race.
I've got a gaggle of cars in front. Welcome to the podcast. It's very quiet here as we all concentrate on going around this very, very, very small circuit.
Oh, okay then. I'll bring up my my topic.
Go for it.
My topic. Does qualifying need to change?
Ooh.
With all the traffic that was around here today, maybe it'd have to be track exclusive. I don't know. But Lard was saying from again the first podcast about how IndyCar do it.
Hamilton's
Send
out, by the way.
Of smaller cars or two smaller groups of cars, and then fighting out to see who get into Q3. So there'd be less traffic.
You know what? That would so a bit like a way that you do it on like go-kart.
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah. The shootouts would actually be pretty cool. You can go on for as many laps as you want.
Well, also, you'd have less cars, so they probably wouldn't need as much time to set a lap as
Yeah.
such. Like 18 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was just two groups of 10, you could probably do it in, 10 minutes each? Roughly? You'd probably have to look into that a bit more, but, they're all thereabouts. And we'd have less traffic issues. Obviously, you'd probably send them out 5 teams at a time. So they've got, Hamilton and Bottas. You wouldn't split them up as such. Or maybe you would. I don't know.
So you keep like the front runners together.
Not necessarily, but I'm saying you keep the teams together. So you don't send one Mercedes out. They've both been in the same group as such.
You could probably base it on, say, the top 10 in, say, practice 2 or practice 3, depending on which track you're at. Go out as one group, and then the bottom 10 maybe go out in the second group, maybe, or mix it up, potentially.
Because I thought, well, as we saw with Kvyat, and, it was maybe still going to be like that, but the traffic today was horrendous for qualifying. In a race, you can't avoid it, but for qualifying, to give everybody a better shot at qualifying higher up, maybe. I don't know.
0.8 seconds.
Just a thought.
It's a good idea, though.
I don't know what tyre you'd choose to start on, because I know a lot of people have been saying it's an outdated rule that you start on the tyre from Q2, from old regulations.
Yeah, I find that one a bit odd.
But I see why, because then it's sort of like you don't just use the fastest tyre in the lap, for the start. There is a bit of strategy there. It's a bit more choice, a bit more. You take the risk of coming out of Q2 to get a better tyre, especially for the midfield teams.
Yeah, if you would have been Q3, you should have a penalty. You should have a penalty or something, like you say, like with tyres and stuff. But maybe it doesn't make sense either, does it? Really?
No. Ooh, Grosjean holding me up. He's going to get a penalty for that.
Oh, poor Grosjean. Not.
Nobody cares about Grosjean.
Nobody ever does.
Where are you, Tracker? Where are you? Oh, there you are.
Storming through the field.
Of
Get out
course.
of my way, Leclerc.
But like the qualifying that we tried last year didn't work, where it was like a running thing, and whoever was at the bottom of the list got punted out as such.
Well,
that didn't.
That was
nobody
absolutely pathetic. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least this way,
That's an idea.
everybody gets a good chance. The track's clear, and the conditions would be more similar.
Yeah.
No. Just something needs to change, and maybe that would spice up qualifying a bit and the race, because obviously the teams would have a bit more chance to set a better lap time.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. Putting it out there to the chat. What's the chat saying, Henry?
They've just said, Michael Patterson said, "Shut up, Jeff."
Wow.
I mean, that's a bit harsh.
What have you done wrong?
And he just says, "Who cares? I just wanted to shut up." To be honest, that's what he's saying about Jeff. I think he means Jeff in the game, not me as Jeff. To be honest.
Yeah. I'm taking a guess he wouldn't be talking about you like that.
Well, that's it at the minute. Maybe they could come up with some ideas for
Yeah.
qualifying.
Chat. You've heard what Will has suggested. Well, the thing. What do you think? Does qualifying need to change? If so, how?
Maybe we can put it on the Twitter poll as well.
Yeah. The Immortal Cloud says it's a good idea.
Well, the other...
So, changing regulations helps, but maybe changing the format a bit.
Yeah, I think changing the format will freshen it up, won't it? As well. But it's got to
Maybe.
be...
Go on.
I like the idea that you say split them into two. See who fight for the... who will fight for it. You're right behind me, aren't you, Will?
Maybe.
What tyres are you on?
I don't know. Softs, I think.
Oh, you're on Ultra Softs.
Possibly.
Yeah, I've just looked at the screen. You're on US.
Oh, yeah.
Are they going to last? Are you going to make it to the end of the race on them?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've got a good setup for tyres. I've done how many laps on these?
4.
Yeah, I'm only on like 10% wear.
Michael Patterson also agrees with Will as well.
There's a lot of people. Oh, track has come off there. About to say you were a bit wide.
I was trying to get past Vettel, so I didn't have the best racing line.
Like the weekends, F1 weekends are a bit sparse at the minute. Like you get a bit of action on the Friday, a bit on the Saturday, and then like on the Sunday.
Now I'm off. Whoa, big one from me. Okay, that's it. Pirouette, that'll do. Know what? How far behind's Lard?
Far enough.
It's just a box moment, is it?
I am boxing. I am boxing, and I'm going to go to the Ultra Softs.
That was a bad choice, Tracker. I've got rain on my windscreen.
Ooh.
I thought I saw a spot of rain.
That's what Lard's waiting for. He's doing the Jensen button.
I'll still end up in front of Lard.
By how far?
Yeah, that's the question.
Even if he comes into the pits, it'll still be. I've still got Kimi Räikkönen here.
I think it was Coulthard earlier that said, or Webber that says modern times mean nobody sticks around for an F1 race. We're finding them boring because there's nothing going on. Maybe make them shorter but have more than one race.
A bit like how F2 do and GP3.
Possibly.
They
Well, I wouldn't do a reverse grid because I just think that's stupid, especially with some of the drivers we've got in F1 at the minute. Because Grosjean is a disaster area, Kubica is a disaster area, Stroll is a disaster area. You wouldn't end up with cars left at the end of a reverse grid. But I don't know. But then we're splitting it up into Formula 1 and Formula 1.5, aren't we?
Yeah, it's weird one to call.
I must say McLaren have definitely closed up the gap in qualifying at least today.
Yeah,
Is that the second, something like that?
it was very close, wasn't it? I would say I know what the time was, but to be honest, I literally saw qualifying and then switched it off because I've had an event go on at home that I needed to sort out. So
Oh, an event.
yeah,
It was a clock, was it?
there was a barbecue.
Yes, because if you're listening back to the podcast, today was summer for Britain.
29 degrees. 29 sweltering degrees Celsius. Or centigrade.
34 at Austria today, and could be as high as 37 tomorrow for the race.
Really?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a hotter day tomorrow.
The upgrades for the cooling, they showed Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari's new holes. I don't want to really say holes. Ventilation. Yes. And Mercedes is still the only ones with the removable piece that they can do the race,
We're at +1 lap.
which is very interesting.
Target +1.
It's like a panel, it just pops out.
Yeah.
Which is
which
clever.
helped him in thingy, didn't it? Helped him in Canada with
Canada.
Bottas.
Mm. So will that come into play tomorrow with ventilation?
It's a good question. One's gone wide. That's fine for me. Whereabouts? How have you started lapping yet, Lard?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've started lapping.
Whereabouts are you?
Just past turn 3.
Right. Okay.
Okay, we don't think we're far away from some rain. I'll keep you updated as the conditions change.
Harry, not far away from some rain.
I'll tell you what annoyed me today.
Go on.
For 2 reasons. Firstly, the F1 qualifying was on. Fair enough. The YouTube highlights for the qualifying were 4 minutes and 37 seconds long
Right.
for how much that actually happened in the qualifying. You know, that doesn't seem fair. Especially when free practice 3 takes up like 3 minutes 27. For the qualifying for the race, it's an extra minute. That does seem a little like F1 don't give it any respect. Which obviously isn't helping the spectacle of the sport, because they basically showed none of the drama with Hamilton and Kimi so much, or like the second runs they had to make in free practice 1. You sort of lost the story and the flow of qualifying a bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't have new fans either, does it? Because they're not going to understand like the rules or why, say, Hamilton was penalised or why Russell was penalised.
Yeah, because it's only F1 coverage. It's not like it's anything extra they have to put effort into. It's just cut from the qualifying.
Yeah.
Just give it, like 10 minutes. It's not long. People surely could sit through 10 minutes of qualifying, which a lot of people say is the better part of the race weekend. Yet you get 4 minutes.
That's probably the optimal time for a YouTube video. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
There you go then.
And I mean, some of the race highlights are less than like 6 minutes long. You're like, that's what, 72 laps in 6 minutes? I know it's fast, but come on.
I'd assume France was probably about 5 minutes long because nothing really happened till the end.
Go and look it up. That would be quite funny, actually. I bet it's like 4 minutes. There was a race in France. It was.
It was bad.
Yes.
Is it
Well,
raining
gentlemen,
on
it
this?
is raining.
I was going to say, it seems a bit like a spot of rain has
Our gap behind is
has hit.
20.0 seconds.
Okay, Lando Norris was 1.096 seconds off pole.
Wow, that's not bad.
With that upgrade coming as
Okay,
well.
okay. Magnussen was just a bit quicker than him,
Oh, yeah, because he had his penalty, which dropped him down to 10th, isn't it?
but here's the thing, right? The top 9 were covered by we'll call it 1.2 seconds. To pole to P9 was 1.2 seconds.
That's a close gap, but then again, it's a short track. So a lot of people said there wouldn't be much in it.
DRS is disabled, gentlemen. DRS is disabled.
I don't know where to risk it on these tyres will come in.
I am going in. Simple as that.
Where are you, Tracker?
I am.
Turn 3.
Thank you.
Or I shouldn't impede you then if I go in for some intermediates.
No, you go in. Because at the minute the tyres are getting to the point that we're now starting to turn Bambi on ice.
DRS has been disabled by the stewards.
Which is like your normal racing, your normal driving then.
Strategy is available.
It's like, where you go and
I'm glad that Lard found that funny. Thanks, Lard.
You're welcome.
go maybe turn off the Xbox.
I was going to say, don't upset him. He'll just turn it all off. You know what he's like.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
it's true.
please.
See, you do make me sound like I am a cruel guy, you know. There we go. I'm in the pits.
You did call yourself Bernie, so do you know what I mean? We've got to paint that
Jeez Louise. That was
portrait.
race
everyone.
2. That was podcast 2.
Well, that's it now. You're the Bernie to everyone now.
Put the sprinklers on.
Actually, he's come out with another idea, which we'll talk about later on.
What?
He's come out with an idea for F1.
Oh, Bernie.
Yeah, old Bernie. Yeah.
Well, whilst
Well-
we're talking about, whilst we've got this lull and we've finished with Austria for the time being, really, haven't we? Let's talk about something that appeared in the news. I shared it on the Turn War podcast Discord group, and that's about Honda and about Red Bull and Helmut Marko saying Honda need to take more risks. Doesn't this sound a little bit more like deja vu with what happened with McLaren?
Does a little bit, doesn't it?
Sorry, or is it more a case of what happened with Red Bull and Renault?
I was going to say more with Renault than McLaren, Honda. I know that Honda have made a lot of changes, haven't they?
Yeah.
To try and help them get up there. And it's not a bad engine. Let's not say, but it's between Renault and
it's underpowered, isn't it? Really. So
yeah, you could say that
I don't
about.
know.
You could say that about the Renault engine as well. You could say that about the Renault engine. It's underpowered compared to the front two, if that makes sense.
Max got the fastest Sector 1 time at one point during qualifying, so that engine is pushing.
yeah.
Well, have they turned it up for this race? Is what worries me.
Is that
You
why
know-
I think we might have had the problem with Gasly?
Who's Gasly? Oh, him at the back. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the other Red Bull driver that's supposed to be up there with Max Verstappen and
Isn't up there.
Well, I'm getting unlapped really, really by back markers on this now, but there's 2 laps to go.
Hang on. Are
I'm
you
holding
still,
it, I'm
are you
going
still
for
on
it.
slicks?
Yep.
No wonder I gained 10 seconds on you that last lap.
Because if it stops raining now, I could be in the pound seats.
Dude, I've just 12 seconds I've gained on you. I've grown the gap in 1 lap, mate, over you. I've been watching that clock. I know I'm
It's
28
faster
behind
than
Will.
you.
I know
Yes.
I know I'm 28 seconds behind Will, but I'm leaving you in the dust, mate.
And then he'll crash.
Oh,
Yeah.
shut up.
And then Lard will come through victorious.
Gasly was about 7/10 slower than Verstappen in Q3.
This is your final lap.
Did he have an issue, or was he just rubbish?
Shall I answer honestly? I think he's struggling with something, whether it's the car or I don't know. He just seems to be struggling all over the place, doesn't he?
Channel
Okay.
4 did a thing with qualifying last week for the French Grand Prix and showing how Gasly compared to Max. Oh, it was bad. Ooh.
What made it worse for Gasly was that the team did everything, put him on the perfect strategy, and he still got overtaken by Ricciardo.
Yep.
Yeah.
That would be one thing that Dr. Marco wouldn't have wanted to see, was a Renault overtaking a Red Bull.
No. We'll come on to contracts in a minute, because that was on the Channel 4.
I think Dr. Marco will be a bit disappointed. Well, be fuming the fact that McLaren's are in front of him as well.
Apparently he's mellowed down a bit. Apparently he's quite happy with, well, not happy with Gasly, but he understands it's going to take a bit of time for him to get up to speed. But whether they give him that time or not is another thing.
Yeah, 1-2 for Williams. Yeah. Like that. That was a good race.
It was. You kept me honest in that first stint.
Yeah. I'm just watching Lard now. This is on board with Lard, guys. On board with Lard.
Come on, lad.
He's still running on softs. He's crawling, and I mean crawling round turn 6. Turn 7. Was that turn 8
He's
now?
sliding. Ooh, last corner.
Oh,
Here we go.
Flying commitment.
I made the commitment to stay on slicks. I'm doing it.
Oh, bit of a tank snapper coming out there.
he's clearly driver of the day. Look, if he finishes the race on
look
those
at
tyres.
this. Look at that.
He does.
He's done it. He's finished the race.
Nice.
Right,
Well
GG.
GGG's all round, guys. GGG's all round. Henry, what's going on in chat, buddy?
The Immortal Cloud said the lap times need to be took into account. So I don't know if he's on about the lap times now, or if they were to change the qualifying. Alexander Cardiff says, in his personal opinion, Circuit de la I'm going to say this wrong, Save as a hypothetical F1 track, whatever they currently use for the French Grand Prix. We should say that the French Grand Prix is won by somebody that used to be in F1.
Eric Boulier.
Eric Boulier. So they suggested that they took the chicane out where Ricciardo overtook Norris and make that one big straight.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an idea. Yeah, I agree with that. I'd also agree to take all this paint shit off the sides of it and put gravel traps and that back in.
Well, that's a discussion that we've got coming up in part 2, isn't it?
Yes. Because we planned it.
We actually planned something. That's right. We are professional. We may have cocked up the start, but we are professional. So
wait, we're professional. You're not professional, Tracker.
Somebody forgets his clutch.
Says one of the people on the other side that decided to talk during the intro music. I'd talk over it about Christmas or something like that.
I said Merry Christmas, Dennis Norden.
There we go. Well, guys, at that point, it's 9:03. We're going to take a 5-minute break so we can refill on drinks because that one's gone. In the meantime, if you want to just leave us something in the chat, brilliant. If not, grab yourself a drink. We'll be back in 5 minutes. See you then. Take care. Bye-bye. Welcome back. Oh, Jazzy Jenny subscribed for 10 months. It's going all wrong tonight. It's going right with Jazzy Jenny. 10 months. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the podcast. It's part 2. You're watching me, John, and we also have Will, Lard and Jay. No, Will, Lard and Henry. How are you doing, guys?
Coming down from a good race.
It was an awesome race, wasn't it?
Well done, Lard. Well done, Lard.
Yo, Jenny, thank you very much for the sub. 10 months, bloody hell. Yeah. So we were there was one stat that Henry found out during the chat, during the break, that I think for any F1 fans out there might find a little bit, shocking, really.
It's not meant in a harsh way either.
No.
When I said it.
No.
Would you like me to say it on there, or are you going to say it?
Yo, it's your stat. You go for it.
Well, it's not my stat. It's actually Crofty's stat. So I'm stealing it from Crofty.
Okay.
So Mano in their last season of F1 with no money and a year-old engine, one of their laps was 5% slower than the fastest lap of that race. In France, Williams' fastest lap was 5.06% slower than the fastest lap overall from that weekend. From the race. So they were 5.6% slower than Mercedes.
That says something, doesn't it?
And that's their fastest lap. Remember, Kubica's like nearly a second off Russell most of the time.
Nobody saw the move that Russell did on Kubica during the race.
No.
Well, I thought that was the dirtiest move I've ever seen from Kubica, just forcing him into the braking boards.
He got his revenge later on in the race, though.
Did he?
Right around the outside. I think it's like turn 15 where it's just flat out. He went right around the outside of him.
He had to come back in for the pit stop, though. Did Russell. Otherwise, Kubica would have finished last in every race, apart from when there's been DNFs.
Yeah. Well, it's that time of the podcast. It's time to hand over to Henry with the news.
Good evening. Shall we talk a little bit about Red Bull?
Yes.
So, in case people didn't know, Dan Ticktum, who 2 years ago got banned because he overtook a safety car and crashed into his rival, has been sacked from the Red Bull Junior program. So he also, because he was in F3 with Mick Schumacher, and Mick Schumacher won, I think, 5 of the last 6 races, or 5 of the last 7 races to win the title. And he kicked off and said, because my name's not Schumacher, that's why I'm not going to win the title. Well, he was over in Japan doing some. He was racing for a team out there, and 3 races in, they've sacked him, and Red Bull have decided to part company with him or sack him, whichever way you want to look at it. They've got rid of him. So, did he get his just desserts? Potentially. Will he come back? He'll go to somewhere and make a career for himself, but Red Bull go. Not interested.
Yeah. Will he come back? That's the question.
There's enough sports out there for him to go off and try, I suppose, if they were interested in taking him on. But he needs to sort of think before he talks.
Is it also a fact that you mentioned it a few races ago about the Red Bull Young Driver program? Is it failing?
Well, the last one they brought through was Gasly, wasn't it? Really, and he was what was he 7/10 off Verstappen today?
Do you think they regret letting go of Carlos Sainz? Because he was on a loan deal with Renault last year.
He was just as quick as Verstappen in a Toro Rosso at the time, but would those two work as a team together? Possibly not. And obviously Renault were going to go after Ocon, which fine, but I would have kept Sainz. Obviously you would have had Ricciardo, because that was what everybody thought was going to happen. Right? Ricciardo was going to go to McLaren.
Yeah.
And that didn't quite happen, to be honest. But they haven't. Have they got anybody to come through if they get rid of Gasly and promote, say, Kvyat to the seat? Probably not. No. So they're stuck with who they've got at the minute.
Yeah. That's
what I think. I don't know about Lard or Will.
Gentlemen?
Well, I mean, if there's no big prospects coming through from the Red Bull program, then yeah, it's failing.
But they were after, I forgot to mention, they were after, what's his name, weren't they? They were after Norris, weren't they? They wanted Norris if McLaren hadn't put him in the seat this year.
That might have been a good fit. That might still be a good fit in the future.
Is Red Bull that attractive as a prospect, though? I mean, look how quickly they churn through young drivers, put them in positions where maybe they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
They're accelerating it too fast. Whereas like Mercedes and Ferrari's young driver program, you can say maybe Ferrari with Giovinazzi, maybe he's not showing his potential at the minute, but they've not put him in the top team. They're not struggling for drivers. Mercedes, you've got Ocon, who really did prove himself in Force India.
Yeah.
I can say Force India because it was last year. And he's a solid test driver for Mercedes, this, that, and the other. So, but then again, Mercedes don't need that many drivers now because they are sort of like a team on their own. Of course, they do, supply drivers a bit with Williams and a bit with Force India or Racing Point. There's that sort of deal, but it's not just for them anymore. Or it is just for them, so it's not like they have to have so many drivers.
Yeah.
But Red Bull just go through them like anything.
They do. They churn through them, don't they? It's like the metaphorical equivalent is Chelsea with their managers.
Yeah, they just don't give them any time, do they? To sort of what they do is they've put all this. They look at the figures, don't they? They've put this much money in. They expect results straight away. You're not getting those results. It's like football, isn't it? You hire a manager, you're paying all his wages, you buy all those players in. You're not getting the results you sack him. It's the same with Red Bull. They just think they're not giving him enough time to sort of develop into a decent driver potentially.
In a way, though, isn't that like management at Ferrari? Because then how many top brass have they gone through in the last 5 years?
Yeah,
sadly, one of them was a tragic. As unfortunately he passed away due to illness. But the others,
I mean, they hire people from the car thing to on F1. That doesn't make sense, does it? Hopefully, Ferrari would just sit with who they've got.
Yeah,
I say Giovinazzi's not a bad driver as such, but he's got a lot to learn. But they've not put him in a seat where all the pressure's on him, unlike Leclerc. I mean, yeah, he's talented. He's doing a good job, but not many people could have done that second season of their career. Jump into a Ferrari.
No.
A lot of respect for Leclerc.
Yeah, let's think that Ferrari's lineup would have been Leclerc and Bianchi. Ferrari's lineup probably would have been those two.
Yeah.
For a few years.
That would have been
Yeah.
an awesome prospect, wouldn't it? Those two. But the thing is, though, we know how much Vettel wanted to keep
Kimi.
And he was very upset when he left. What's the gap? Let's have a look at what's the points difference between. I'm still live. That's always a good thing when I'm moving the wrong one. Let's transition that to that camera. What's the points gap between Hamilton and Vettel at this precise moment?
67, isn't it? 67?
67 points.
67 points, yeah.
Wow.
I knew that without even looking.
You did. Me going unprofessional. But what other news have we got?
Oh, I knew you were going to say it. Should we talk?
I was going to say, it's your news segment,
I
mate.
know. I was just going to say, what about Bernie? Bernie found this on a website, has come up with a radical idea to improve F1. Apparently, he was talking to ESPN and he said, I would be saying we're going to have two championships. They're both world championships. One is the Constructors' World Championship and the other is the Teams' World Championship. The Drivers' World Championship would not be affected in any way. He goes on and says the Constructors' Championship is for the teams that manufacture the engine and the chassis, so teams such as Ferrari and Mercedes. For the Teams' Championship, I'd build a car like a very sophisticated F2 car. If Honda decided they weren't going to be an F1, or if Honda decided not to be a constructor, I'd do a good deal for one of them to supply everyone. This would be engines similar to those we have today, but one engine has to last a full season with one spare engine only to be used if the original one has a failure. So this idea would then force teams like Williams or McLaren into either building their own engines or dropping down into the Teams Championship, neither of which would surely be especially viable or interesting. It is an interesting proposal.
Two things that struck me about that. Firstly, why didn't Bernie implement this when he was Supremo of Formula One? Secondly, why is he trying to go for the Eddie Jordan look on this picture? Proper Eddie Jordan look. No one noticed it. Come on.
How convoluted did that sound, though?
Sorry?
How convoluted did those rules sound?
They
from
did,
him?
didn't they? But why didn't he
Yeah.
do it? He's had the chance to. He's left F1 the way it is. Why didn't he do it?
The teams have got too much power, haven't they?
Yep.
Yeah,
Where's
but who
his-
gave
that-
him the power?
Oh, yeah.
There
Oh,
we
yeah.
go. So he's adding. Yeah.
He does go on as more. So if you wanted to start a team, here's your chance. I'd give you a complete car and a spare engine, and I'd give you 30 million a year. That way we can forget all this cost crap nonsense.
Okay.
You've got to run the team as best as you can. You've got 30 million to get you going, so you need to go out and find some sponsors.
Is
We're
this?
going to balance.
Go on. You let me know when it's the end.
We're going to balance things out by doing a couple of things to help the team's championship. Firstly, if you want to, you can refuel. You have just one set of tyres, but if you want to stop and refuel, you can also change your tyres. Then maybe we'd have to change the weight of the car. If we found if the team cars weren't quick, we'd make sure the constructors' cars were a bit heavier. That way, you could easily find 2 seconds. This is the last little bit. With a refueling strategy and a change of tyres, you'd find another, say, second a lap. But only if you want to do that. It's up to you. And one more thing, the teams could enter just one car if they wanted. The rules governing the design of the constructors' cars would be as they are today. That way, they couldn't complain.
Is that it,
Excellent.
Columbo?
Eh?
Is that it, Columbo?
No, Eccleston goes on to say that if balanced correctly, the smaller teams would have a chance to fight for podiums at a fraction of the cost of the constructors, while also providing good racing. He says it's something that's brand new. Saying that, if you think back, Sterling must beat Ferrari and everyone else to win a couple of Grand Prix and a single car entry for Rob Walker, with what they were a customer car. The idea of a brand new is because we moved forward technically, but who's to say we can't go back to a single entry? Obviously, the constructors have more chance of winning races than the teams, but that's not new because when Ross won for Rob Walker, it was at a time when the factory teams usually had the best chance of winning. That's it.
Are we sure?
Yes, that's it.
Positive.
Yes, positive.
Right,
I've
okay.
even closed the tab down now.
I suppose the thing that comes into my head is he talks about the startup teams with 30 million. Now, considering how fresh that piece to camera I did was last week, doesn't that sound like what he was talking about with 2010 with the introduction of HRT, Caterham and Manor? And that, look how that ended. Gentlemen, Will, Lard, you're listening.
Yeah, I'm listening. I mean, to sort of link up my other passion, my other podcast for a minute. There's the CEO of Electronic Arts, Andrew Wilson, did an interview this week as well, talking about the future of gaming, microtransactions, and loot boxes and so forth. And the amount of nonsense that came out of his mouth was a deja vu to the past 5 minutes. It's just all this babble for nothing in there to me.
I just think if it was to work, and again, I'm saying this with inverted commas, if it was to work, then I'm all for it, but I can't see it working.
No. Will?
So I made this point, was it last week, about the rule changes and regulations and how if a team is building its own engine, their cost cap should be more, so they can spend more because they're having to make and design their own engine.
Yeah.
As in like a engine manufacturer's sort of championship, I can sort of understand where he was coming from. But the rest of it is nonsense, to be quite honest. But like you said, 30 million and a standard car is not going to be very interesting, is it? That is spec series, and as I've said before, I don't find that interesting at all. That's not going to help F1.
If they want to slow the top teams down, why not do something that British touring cars do? Put extra ballast in the cars that are in front.
If you get top 3 or say top 10, you'll get ballast for the next race or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you've got to design a car that can take ballast where you might not be needing it.
But what about something along the lines of, we talked about it very briefly and I was joking about it, but maybe it's an idea. What about remotely reducing the power on the car, on the engines? So there's a way that you can override it and take off some power. So you've got the engine, but you've just introduced an electronic way of limiting the power. The FIA are the only ones who have the power to do that.
Conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be
You're slowing them down. You're slowing them down.
Yeah, I suppose we're going to have that problem, aren't we? Wherever we're going to go, it's a big fix.
Yeah, see that's the problem. The main things with F1 that you need to keep are speed and innovation, because that's what F1 is supposed to be. It's supposed to be the forefront. Of technology in motorsport. It's supposed to be that. And if you take away the speed, if you take away it's all standardized, then you're taking that away as well. You're taking the innovation away.
Yeah.
There's no point having teams at this rate. You might as well just give everybody the same car. Because everybody's complaining because Mercedes have got the better engine. It's because they've put work in and actually developed an engine. Ferrari haven't done it as well, which is why they're second. Red Bull, thirdly as good, etc., etc., etc. That's racing. Racing is not fair. Racing is for who does the best.
Yeah.
There's nothing else with sport. You don't complain because Andy Murray didn't hit as many balls as somebody else. That's not how sport works. You are the best. You win. As you hear a car go past here quite loudly.
That was loud, that. It really was loud. Yeah, I agree. And I think the fact that what happened earlier on, was it yesterday? No, it was today, wasn't it? The failed tyre bid. Yesterday, the failed tyre bid to revert back to the 2018 regulations. It's the sulky boys that are wanting the old tyres back because they can switch them on better than the new tyres. Kawinky dink.
And there's no guarantees that even with the new regulations for this year, the old tyres would suit them anyway.
No, the cars are designed around the tyres. So it would screw up the aero packages on all the cars.
Yeah, it's like, with the older cars, like let's say the 1992 cars, you couldn't put the new Pirellis on them because it just wouldn't work. It'd feel wrong. You'd have to change things completely for it to work.
But if you start giving into stuff like that, you might as well say go back to regular 20 because none of the teams since have won. That's not a thing. That's not how sport works.
Because this thing is, like I said before as well, it's like, yes, we can moan and bemoan the fact that Mercedes are dominating. But if we look through history of Formula One, they're not the first team to do this.
No. Yeah. And there's always been gaps between, say, the top sort of 2 or 3 teams and everybody else.
Yeah, that's what F1 is. It's just because people are fed up with Mercedes winning it, and with the new social media era, everybody can voice that. Times have changed.
Yeah. I think they just expect the racing to be really close, and realistically, it's not as close as they were hoping. Maybe I don't know, but
no. But we know Trackers supports McLaren, and followed McLaren for how many years?
Since I was a kid, yeah.
They've not won every championship. You still love the sport. You still watch it. You're still interested.
Yeah.
You don't expect McLaren to win every race.
No.
You don't expect McLaren to dominate everything. Do you call yourself a true fan?
Yeah. I'll support McLaren.
Yeah, but I bet you take your hat off to Mercedes for doing something.
Yeah.
Or Red Bull, they want to race, or Ferrari, or whoever. The point is, as a fan, you go, they've done the best. But I still like my team. There's nothing against McLaren or even Williams. We have a go at Williams, but we've all got a soft spot for them.
Oh, yeah.
British.
Yeah, we all like to see them do well, don't we?
Yeah. Nobody wishes them bad, but we do have a go at them because they're not doing very well. That's sport. It's difficult.
Yeah.
I think it was just Bernie just trying to have hot air, wasn't he? He was just trying to get some limelight, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's Bernie bringing his nose in, going, "Well, if I was running this, I'd do this, this, and this," and we can all go, "But you've run it since the 70s. You've had this opportunity to do it. You're the one who put us in this place. Why did you leave us in this place? Run off with your money and now you're deciding to blow hot air to get into this position that you are. That you've ruined the sport that we all love."
Let's be honest, we can't blame the FIA and we can't blame Liberty Media for the state that it's in. They've just picked it up and they're going to try and fix things or try to do whatever they've got to do. Really, we should be saying, Bernie, as much as, yes, you saved Lotus from going under by getting Renault to buy them, and you promised Renault that they could win races without having to spend £400 million.
Yeah.
Has that really happened? No. So really, as much as he's done one good thing, he's probably done about 50 million bad things for the sport.
Yeah.
But then again, Bernie was the only one that kept F1 going through the 70s. We might have F1 without him. It's a really weird situation or feeling to Bernie, because without him, I don't think F1 would still be going. It really died in the 70s, had it not?
Yeah, but he's... Yeah.
Yeah, but times change.
Do you know what?
Indeed.
Do you know what it makes me think of? Going back to football, Arsene Wenger came in, changed the club, brilliant. Had that amazing. Had a couple of doubles. Had the unbeaten run. But then he overstayed his welcome, and when he overstayed his welcome, he didn't do the things like bringing defenders, freshen up. His tactics all stale. Yeah, and it's that situation.
It's like the WWE at this point. It's Vincent ran from the 80s.
Oh, God, yeah, Vince.
To now. Took it, bought it from his dad, went from a local sort of regional promotion, and molded it into the powerhouse of the international, across the globe, as it is today. Yeah. But for the past couple of years, the quality of the product, not necessarily down to the wrestlers' fault or the matches the wrestlers are trying to do. It's more the creative side of it, and them telling the wrestlers what needs to be done to make the matches and things worse off. It's a worse, the quality of the product is a lot less than what it was a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And if that's partially down to, we think Vince is too old now for this and needs to move aside.
Yeah.
He's Bernie of the wrestling world.
He'll give Shane McMahon a title before long, the way it's going.
Yeah, and we don't want that. We don't need that. That's a rubbish idea, and it's the same thing. But Bernie was moved away because the Liberty Media came in and outbid, bought the company. So similar thing needs to happen with WWE, but I have a suspicion that Vince would become like Bernie again and just blow hot air because he'd missed the power. And that's what Bernie's doing.
Yeah.
He's just stirring the pot because he can now and he misses being in charge.
Yeah.
I think the worst thing is everybody's having to go at the teams or Mercedes when the teams can only do what the regulations can only build. End of the day, it is the people in charge of the sport that have ruined it.
Yeah.
Not Mercedes dominating, not Ferrari for not doing so well, not any of the midfield teams. It's people like Bernie, people like Liberty Media who said it would be more interesting within a year. They shouldn't have promised that.
No.
They shouldn't have promised that. Yes, they're making progress. We're going to different places. But as a fan, that's not what we're interested in. We couldn't care if the race was in Vietnam or Birmingham. We want to see racing.
Yeah, we want close racing where, it may not necessarily be one team that dominates, but it gives that unpredictability of, Lewis might not win this week.
Yeah.
It might be, Russell or Lando Norris.
But then, like we said, Mercedes could go off and win it, or Ferrari or whoever. But as long as everybody else was go, that team's done the best this year to develop the car, but all the other teams are still buying it out.
Yeah.
I mean, the battle for 4th and 5th in the constructors this season is really tasty between Renault and McLaren.
Yeah.
To be fair, any of them apart from Williams for the mid-table looks really, every point matters.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. But yeah,
there's some fair points here, gentlemen. Fair points. What about the chat, Henry? Henry, what's been going on there?
It's been busy.
Busy?
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start from when we was on break.
Okay.
Which is right up here. And Michael Patterson said that's planning. There's planning even. Karloff said but then again, he'd want the full Nürburgring track in F1, and we all know the odds of that happening.
Probably about that much. Yeah.
0%. Yeah. The Immortal Cloud said whatever track is drinking, he needs it every week.
I'm not officially sponsored by them, but it's Diet Coke caffeine free. There we go.
Just drop it in there.
Carbonated drinks are
They certainly are, like Pepsi Maximum.
Like this one here. Shall I just do that?
We can't see. My glass is empty. There we go. That's how nice it is. Pay me Coca-Cola.
McLaren are sponsored by Coca-Cola. We should point this out.
They are indeed.
Mook said development programs aren't necessary at the minute as the cars are easier to drive. Mook said, I think Ferrari structure is hidden potential dominance. So I sort of said this last week when we said that Vettel doesn't seem to fit in with how they operate, so to speak. Mook says, what you need is the teams to have no influence in the rules of the sport. And due to the clauses Bernie gave them, it's doomed almost.
Right.
Alex Karloff said, I had a headache from trying to install that. Well, Alex, you weren't the only one.
Alex,
Mook
welcome
says,
to the Taiwan podcast.
Mook said, nonsense. Bernie equals hot hair to get airtime. She also agreed with Lard. Well, they can change the engine power for Formula E, so maybe, says Karloff. Mook says, may as well stick them in Formula E. Best car plus best driver winner, according to McLeod. Also, forcing all the teams to have the same car sounds a bit like LMP2 from Karloff. Mook is moaning due to the lack of racing in general. Dominant teams have always been on the sport. True. Ferrari was dominated, didn't they, in the early 2000s?
Yeah.
Power does weird things to people.
True.
Says Mook.
True.
Karloff said again about the wrestling. The Saudi shows aren't helping WWE. Midfield teams have been close for a good couple of years. The midfield is probably the best of the action, really.
I love the way we talked about football and WWE. Should this have been turn 1 2, 3, ding, ding, ding podcast.
Nice.
Thank you. I'm here all week. Let's.
With jokes like that, you ain't going anywhere else.
Oh, Will. Right, okay. So we got a subject that we're going to talk about now, which is about track limits. I kind of mentioned this in the Discord group with the guys beforehand, but this is what I put down. Should gravel traps be reintroduced to circuits? If the answer is no, what else could be done to stop drivers exceeding those track limits? So, you guys, you've had 24 hours to think about it. Let me just switch to a picture of a gravel trap for you because it's always a good thing. There we go. What do you think? Should gravel traps stay in Formula One? Should we be keeping those? Who wants to?
Yes.
Lard.
Yes,
Tell
we
me
should.
Tell me why.
Because, as we saw in free practice, for Austria and potentially here in the race tomorrow, if cars go off the track, they need to be punished for making a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also cuts down the potential of what happened in Canada with them coming out, dangerously back onto the track. Because there's a bigger chance of them staying off and going out the race. Now you may go, yeah, but less cars makes it a bit more boring. Well, they shouldn't make a mistake then. There has to be an element of, if you're going to do something, you need to be penalised for it in such a way.
That's Monaco in a nutshell, because they have to focus for those 70 laps, don't they? Because they've got a barrier either side of them.
Yeah. That's Monaco in that respect, where you have to keep it on. But the downside with Monaco is you can't overtake it. How's that racing?
I agree with that.
Well,
I guess I got 2 or 3 points on this.
okay.
Last year or the year before, Charlie Whiting did some drivers' meetings, which was on YouTube, and he did discuss the future of gravel traps. I think Ricardo posed the question. He was like, AstroTurf gravel traps, why aren't they here? And he said it was a massive safety risk that the FIA had looked into and basically said it's not worth the risk. And he did actually reference the Jules Bianchi crash on that. Yeah. Basically saying that was a gravel trap and it didn't actually help. Whereas these special paints, this, that, and the other are supposed to slow it down. Whatever you think to that, obviously they have looked at it and gone, does it really work? Is what we want? Like Lard said, if you make a mistake, we want you to be punished. But maybe there are other alternatives to gravel traps, is point one. Point two is like
tires.
Point two is like the runoff that Perez had last race, and he did it, stuck to the rules. Yeah, it didn't actually punish him. So they need to think a bit more about runoffs / traps, so it actually punishes fairly to what the incident was. Like Vettel went over the grass, so he lost grip. If he'd have just ended up beach there, is that really fair on him? If he'd have just gone, the gravel just stopped a bit of where the grass was, basically.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Is that worth the mistake he's made? I don't know. It's something I think the fans and the drivers would have to look into, because every corner is different. Because look how much runoff you've got there on the French Grand Prix. You've got up there.
I mean,
there's a lot.
This is a stock photo from last year, but it's still the same thing. I mean, look at that.
So, isn't that paint meant to slow them down if they were wide?
Yeah. It's like different rough, and the red one's even rougher.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to slow them down. So maybe we need your normal curb, a sausage curb, some sort of paint, and then a gravel trap or grass or whatever. So like gradually, so the further you go out and make the mistake, the more you're punished. But again, it's track dependent, because obviously you couldn't do that in Monaco because it's about. But you know what I mean. So the punishment for going off deserves, or you get what you deserve for the mistake, rather than just gravel trap you out. Because again, like you say, less cars, you shouldn't have made a mistake, but for a smaller team, if they went off and they were in the points, you'd be a bit upset for them, like we were for Norris when he lost his brakes or whatever. There just needs to be proper thought into it rather than just going gravel traps everywhere. No gravel traps. They need to sit down with the drivers and go, this is what's safe, this is what's not so safe. You know, what do you want? That is a driver issue, I'd say, rather than the FIA themselves.
Yeah.
Because it's them that are risking their lives. It's safety on their behalf, so ask them.
Put it in their court, you know, put the ball in their court and just go, these are the options you've got. Which one or where, you know, we can put this here or we can put that there. You know, tell them what tracks they're going to use, say barriers or gravel traps or whatever else, and just say to them, you know, are you happy with that?
Yeah.
This hasn't got nothing to do with teams, it's the drivers and safety at the end of the day. So leave it as that. Not the spectacle, we're not bothered, we're not interested. It's safety.
Because you've also got to put in mind the spectator safety with this.
Yeah, was it the Maku incident?
Yep.
Because that car went into a crowd.
Yep.
That's nobody wants that. Well, apart from maybe Bernie. Ooh, it's exciting.
Because when I went to like the Renault World Series, even that, with mostly, you know, like the smaller, in the smaller category of racing, even on that ticket, it's motorsport can be dangerous.
Yes.
So you're almost putting your life in your hand, in your own hands by going to watch motor racing, because if a crash like that happens and there's just like a concrete runoff area, that car's going at a certain speed. It ain't stopping on concrete.
Yeah.
Especially if the brakes fail, which is why sometimes gravel's needed.
Yeah. So if it goes too fast, that car brakes because, they want that safety, the safety cell for the drivers not to be injured or badly or worse, which, is fair enough. But the bits flying off could potentially fly into the crowd and hurt people in the crowd. I've heard of people being killed in the crowd by a tyre flying into it. So by having these runoff areas to get away with it, the potential danger's there as well.
Yeah. But it's like when we talk about the removal of gravel traps at some of the Grand Prix. It's one of the most famous ones that I can think of, which I'm just getting everything sorted out whilst I'm doing this, is the Parabolica.
Yeah.
The Parabolica.
Monza, yeah.
Monza.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just going to get this lined up so I can get a before and after pick. So this is the Parabolica before. So this is how it looks before. Look at the runoff. Bit of runoff there, isn't there? If you make a mistake, you've still got a bit of tarmac, and then you've got the gravel, yeah? And that's what it looks like now. There is no more gravel. It's just runoff. I think beforehand, the gravel actually went up to about the... I'm pointing to a screen that you can't see me point to, which is a bit ridiculous. But if you imagine it, where the AstroTurf is, the green AstroTurf, it's probably around about the same kind of length, and it started about there. And that's ruined the Parabolica because
they start a bit further out. We see there's like the darker grey and the tarmac and the lighter grey. The lighter grey, I think that's where the gravel trap started, because the darker grey was the grass.
I think it was.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Just quickly, while you're talking about that, Hamilton will actually start fourth tomorrow.
What?
Hamilton will start fourth tomorrow.
Go on, breaking news. Tell me what's going on.
Due to how they applied the penalties. So what they do is, Magnussen qualified 5th, so then they add his penalty, and he's obviously 11th or whatever he's going to be, but they leave a space for where he was. Then they add Hamilton's penalty, so he would go down to 5th. Of course, that leaves a space because obviously Hamilton was P2, so then Verstappen would go up to P2. Bottas and Mercedes and Hamilton are P3 and P4, and Norris is P5.
What?
Yeah, Rachel Brooks has got it on her Twitter. It's all over Twitter. Don't ask me how it works, but I found that and I thought I'd share it with everybody.
Also on that point, that incident happened in qualifying 1. They noted it at the start of qualifying 2. They investigated it during qualifying 3. I mean, really? Why did it take a second to note it and another one to say they were investigating it? That really annoyed me. I'd rather just know. It's going to be investigated or it's not. What happened to go, it's noted to investigation? Especially because Kimmy come through, you know? I don't understand the FIA and how they're trying to make it more fan-friendly by doing decisions when...
After qualifying.
Yeah.
Or after, or during the race.
Yeah, because I mean, Hamilton could have come out to Q3 and gone straight to the stewards. No, they forced him to do media duties first. Why? Yeah. It's only going to take 5 minutes for him to go, it was my fault or it wasn't my fault, and then they can decide. But no,
exactly.
20 minutes to the media, 20 minutes to this. Yeah.
That's what I said about Vettel, though, wasn't it? Canada. They should just say if you're going to investigate after the race, have those two in the stewards and talk it out as grown adults.
Yeah, do one thing or the other. Don't fanny it out over 14 laps.
Don't just go, right, this 5-second penalty and then ruin the race for people that are there.
Yeah.
So we'll do it after the race so those two can battle it out on track and then decide, then pull them both into the FIA stewards for 5 minutes after the race and go, bang, this is, Yeah,
but straight after the race, not after the podium.
No, the part of the cars up and go straight to the FIA.
Yeah, because it was worthy of the podium. It was a podium place. Further down the field, I'm like, yeah, okay, it can wait till after the podium. Yeah. But it still needs to be done during the race, maybe within 30 minutes, an hour after the race, if it, unless it's mad circumstances. But, it needs to be in some sort of time scale. If I'm making decisions 4 months down the line, it's not right.
No, that's not right at all. Well, what's been going on in the chat whilst we've been talking about that, Henry? Whilst we've been talking about...
Mook said the fans moaned about gravel traps, hence why they got removed from some tracks. She thinks it's around the 2000s. Yeah. Michael Patterson says, I agree with Lard on gravel traps. I tell you what, Lard, you've had some good fans in here tonight, haven't you, to be honest? Have you been paying them, is what I want to know. Mook said,
one skin.
Mook said, also, if we were to have gravel traps, etc., reinstated, who takes the burden of the costs? The circuit, e.g. Silverstone with no government funding, or the FIA? Cardiff said that does not look like it would slow it down anything at all. I think he means the picture.
The French one. Yeah.
French one. Mook says, isn't some gravel traps being removed down in MotoGP? She could be wrong. On the subject of Silverstone, I have found somewhere, I can't remember where I found it, a deal has been done, or in principle been agreed for them to host it longer than obviously is stated at the minute, but they are worried about London GP.
Right.
Obviously, because they want to go to other places, so they're worried that if they were to go to London, in the Docklands, that they would have to host it at the same sort of time as Silverstone, and that could lead to them not getting as much money through ticket sales, etc., etc., etc.
The problem with it being hosted in London is, as much as they want to go to these big cities and everything like that, is London isn't built for the infrastructure that F1 would bring along. It's a city that's been built up over centuries, and if you have even such a small event, it causes chaos in the capital. Having it around the Docklands area is just going to make things worse. Yeah,
but that's obviously what that's what somebody's obviously told them potentially. I mean, again, it's all hearsay at this moment in time. Nobody knows what's going on or what's going to happen, so to speak.
Yeah,
but I believe that may be a sticking point if Rossbourne or Liberty Media wanted to go to London, they could only host it around the same sort of time as Silverstone due to our weather.
Yeah.
That's madness, really.
Yeah.
It is.
I don't think we want any more street circuits. Baku's all right. You can overtake in Baku.
Yeah.
But We don't want street circuits.
No, we want proper circuits back.
We do,
Yeah.
and that's the whole thing. It's all about getting that. We want a couple of street circuits, but we want normal circuits on the calendar. So we've got to start wrapping things up. So let's do predictions. So I've already got Jay's in. So Jay's dropped his off, and he's going with as follows: predictions for tomorrow's race. He's going with Leclerc to win, Verstappen second, Bottas third. He thinks Sainz will be best of the rest. Vettel will be fastest lap, and with K-Mag coming up as idiot of the week. Who do we start with? Let's start with Henry this time round. We haven't started with you, buddy. So let's start with you.
You put me right on the spot.
Oh, of course I have.
I would say Leclerc to win.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go Hamilton and Bottas.
Right.
That's what I'm going to go with. Hamilton,
Second.
Bottas second and
In
third.
that order, yeah.
Yeah. Best of the rest. Norris.
Sorry, Norris. Helps fucking spell. Yeah.
Fastest lap. I also go with Vettel for fastest lap.
Yeah.
Idiot of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Who do I go for? I'm going to say Kubica for idiot of the week.
To be fair, he hasn't been idiot, or he was idiot of the week last week. Why was he idiot of the week last week?
Because he forced thingy
Russell.
into the Russell
Yeah.
into the 100-meter board, didn't he?
Yeah, that's why. Just seeing if he's ever been put down. Oh yeah, he's put down for Canada as idiot of the week. So he's nominated for that. He's only been nominated for idiot of the week once. He's been nominated for idiot of the week. Blooming heck. You know what? I'm going to go me next because I always seem to go last on these, so I'm going to go next. I'm going to go Leclerc because I think the Ferrari is faster. I think it'll be Hamilton, and I think it'll be Verstappen. So Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen. Best of the rest, I'm going to go with you with Norris. The McLaren is looking really strong. Fastest lap. I'm going to go with Vettel because he'll be outside the top 10. He'll be the one that they want to take the point off of. Try and take the point off of.
I can see them boxing him, and then he like in France, he just gets a couple of laps to go for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And idiot of the week. Let's do it. Grosjean. There we go. Because he's in a record 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the 8 prediction rounds. We've got him as one of us has him as idiot of the week.
This is our love. This is our love to Grosjean.
It really is. Lard.
Right, I'm going to go with my predictions on Fantasy Prix that I did earlier in the week before qualifying. So Hamilton first.
Yeah.
Bottas second.
Yeah.
Verstappen third.
Yeah.
Fastest lap again. I'm going to agree with Vettel.
Yeah.
Rest of the rest, I'm going to go with Kimi Räikkönen.
Right.
And idiot of the week, from seeing the crash in Free Practice 2, I'm going with Bottas.
Now, Will, I've left you last deliberately because I want to find out who your idiot of the week is at the end of this. Your lineup, please, buddy.
Hamilton first.
Yeah.
Bottas second.
Yeah.
Verstappen third.
Yeah.
Vettel fastest lap.
Yeah.
Norris best of the rest.
Yeah.
Come on, Norris. An idiot of the week, Charles Leclerc.
Ooh. Explain. What do you think he might do?
Well, to be fair, I do think Verstappen and Leclerc will come together in the first corner, take each other off, and say away with it. Because all the pressure's on Verstappen to deliver his home race, the fan, and all the pressure's on Leclerc to bring home a Ferrari win.
Yeah.
I reckon they're just going to race each other too hard, take each other off, and Mercedes will just waltz it.
Right. Okie dokes. Well, that's the predictions in. You'll find out how we did on next podcast, which will be for Silverstone in 2 weeks' time. Before we go to Silverstone, Henry, last chat. Check in.
Okay, Mook says, I think every time Silverstone has been close to an end of contract, they usually announce something on the weekend. I think it's due to maximise ticket sales. Karloff says, and that's assuming that there wouldn't be any other major events happening in London at the same time.
That's very true indeed. Gentlemen, thank you ever so much for your contribution today. It's been a great race and a great chat, as always.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone who has been involved in the chat as well. So we're going to wrap up the podcast now. So you can find us on Twitter at Turn One Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Turn One Podcast as well. You can now find that we've got our past highlights. Oh, well, our highlights. It's the whole of the podcast we are uploading onto YouTube as well. If you just go to YouTube, search for Turn One Podcast, you will find our logo. Click on the link and it'll take you through to our channel. You'll also find us on, well, you can email us, podcastturn1@gmail.com, and our podcast is all through Podomatic, but you can get it through iTunes Store as well. Thanks to all my guests. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you in a fortnight's time. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.